What's up, everyone? Bashar Ketu here. If you don't know me by now, I'm the founder and CEO of BJK University, an education platform with a mission to impact 1,000,000 lives at a time. So we've been thinking of a bunch of ways on how to provide value to you. And finally, we came back to starting a podcast. And the reason being is every time I am in a conversation where I am really engaged and there's a whole bunch of things just flowing out of me, it's in an organic conversation, an organic setting where I'm just talking to a friend and there's a ton of things that are being generated. So that's why I wanted to start this podcast for you, because at the end of the day, really, this is the reason why we're all here. With that said, I decided to start the podcast with someone else, someone who I really enjoy talking to, someone who shares a similar mindset and who I've known for a long time. Now, before I introduce him, I need a small favor from you. If you haven't subscribed already, do me a favor and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And also in the comments, let us know what you want this podcast to be named. Because believe it or not, we don't even have a name for this podcast. And we want you to be involved in this process, just because we were thinking of all these crazy creative names. But at the end of the day, we're doing this for you and we want you to be involved as well. So drop in the comments below what names you would like to have this podcast to be named. And we're going to do this at the end of March. Now, the person that we choose is actually going to win $1,000 in cash. Drop in the comments as well whatever topics you'd like us to talk about and things that you want us to share our insights. And also, if there is someone that you want us to interview, be sure to drop their name in the comments below. I would love to introduce to you my co-host and really the co-founder of BJK University, Aaron Shiviterese. Hopefully, I did not butcher his last name, but I've known Aaron for the last 3 years. He was literally the very first person that joined BJK University when I started expanding back in 2019, and he's been an incredible part of its expansion.
Yeah, man. Good times, Bashar. Here we are, my friend. So back in the day when we first bumped into each other, I was living in Southeast Asia, right? Remember? I was on the island and we were both like doing a ton of affiliate marketing and things online. You were selling your course and I was just getting into the internet because we went through some interesting times living in the island back then. And we bumped into each other on Facebook and you hit me up and you're like, hey man, let's do an interview on Facebook or whatever. And you interviewed me. Like that's the first time we met. Do you remember how it went? It's a little foggy.
I remember the first I talked to you in person, or I guess over Zoom. I had this podcast thing where I would bring entrepreneurs and so on, and I was interviewing you, and you came on. I still remember you came on shirtless with a pina colada in your hand, and you were drunk off your ass. I don't even know if you even knew what was going on. Literally telling myself, I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? What's happening right now?
That sounds about right, man. That does sound about right. So back then, my wife and I had been living in Southeast Asia for, I guess, close to 8 years. We first were in Singapore in corporate hospitality, and then we moved to an island and we did more of a consulting from the hospitality side of things. And it led into like festivals and beach resorts. And you know how it is at these party islands, just doing my job, man. I was on duty. I was at the party. What was I supposed to do? I got to host that thing. I just came to a moment in time where I needed to make a decision, whether it was like continue with this, the brick and mortar on the island and things, or try something new on the internet. And you met me in that moment where I was still feeling out both. I had lots of opportunities to keep building brick and mortar on different islands and things where a lot of my friends went and expanded and did really well. And I also was like, but this internet thing is very interesting. And so we chatted, and that was pretty much the beginning of it. And then we fast forwarded about a year. I had moved over to Europe and started into sales and stuff. And then I had you on my podcast, the Growth Podcast, the podcast that I started so that I could network with people. My goal was like, I want to meet people on the internet because I don't know anybody yet. And you were like one of the first five people I hit up because I only knew about 6. And I was like, hey, that dude with the mustache, man, I'm going to hit him up. We got you on there. We talked FBA and talked Amazon, and here we are, man. We were just buddies ever since.
Pretty crazy ride. The last few years has been
nuts.
Those that are watching, what should they expect from what we're doing here? And maybe spend a couple of minutes talking about why we started this and what the future of this podcast is going to look like.
Totally, man. There seems to have been this like era of curated bullshit where people are just like, it looks perfect. Instagram, everything's just perfect and shiny, and you're getting this false sense of reality. And it's been going on for quite a while now. And then that sort of leaked over into the podcast world. But I think like you and I, we both enjoy content that's raw and real, and people are just having high level conversations about interesting shit. You learn things about how people got from where they were to where they are now and the steps it took to get there. And I find with a real conversation, you're actually getting like the authentic truth behind what it actually fucking takes to get shit done. Not the shiny, hey bro, get the motivation and make it happen. You actually get the nuggets of what it took for that guy to go from where they are before, whatever that was, to where they are now and where they're going in their plans to get there. And ultimately, you just realize that we're all the same. We're all on the journey the same way. And for me, this podcast is just an opportunity to chat with you because you and I have awesome conversations. We get along really well. We're building an awesome company. And it's just, man, fucking let's record it and just let the people listen to it, give us feedback, ask questions. We can go two ways with it, get interactive, and have a lot of fun with it.
What's interesting is that literally every time me and you talk, halfway through the conversation, we're like, fuck, we should have hit record. And there's always these like nuggets that we talk about. Sometimes even if I'm like training in the morning with my trainer or if I'm out with friends or whatever, it's always like these organic conversations that happen when you least expect them. And I'm always like, man, I wish I was mic'd right now. And I think this is exactly what we're trying to accomplish here is, as you said, these raw, authentic conversations. And we're just literally the video is going to start with me and Aaron just talking about 4 or 5 different things that we felt like we want to talk about, things that we thought of during the week. And so you have a chance to influence those topics. You have a chance to influence the things that you want to hear, because at the end of the day, we want to deliver value to you. These are all things that we've learned throughout our lives, and we want to bring them out and share them with you, because that's one thing that I've realized with like with Tony Robbins is he talks about how in order for people to be fulfilled, they need to be growing and then they need to be contributing. Every time I hear something, every time I know something, the first thing I want to do is I want to share it with someone else. That's how I feel good, when you share it with other people. So that's pretty much what we're doing. So again, this video, just wanted to introduce Aaron and let you guys know about our plan. So 3 things before we end this. Number 1, subscribe. Number 2, drop in the chat what you want the name of this podcast to look like. And by the end of March, we're going to pick a winner, and the winner will win $1,000 cash. And the third thing is drop in the chat as well what topics you'd like us to talk about and what are some things that you want to see on this podcast. Outside of that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.